Okay, so looking on your worksheet, again, problems 2 and 4, starting with problem number 2. We have 4 times p plus 3 equals 36. So again, as we do this, we are basically going through and doing our order of operations. We talked about last week, the first thing you want to do is your distribution. If you think of your PEMDAS, your order of operations, you want to take care of that parentheses or that multiplication piece first. So that's what we're doing. This 4 times the parentheses is where we start. So I'm going to take my 4 and I'm going to distribute it in. Again, draw your arrows, and every time you draw an arrow, actually do that multiplication. So 4 times p gives you 4p. Then we have 4 times 3. Again, when you multiply in that second piece, make sure you're picking up the sign in front of the number. In this case, it's a positive 3. So that will give us a positive 12. That positive gives us our plus sign to connect our numbers. So this is plus 12. Then I bring down the equals 36. Okay? So now I want to check to see if I can start solving for the variable, if I can solve for p. In this case, I put my arrow above my variable, and there's only 1, so I can go ahead and start solving for it. When I go through and solve, I'm basically doing my order of operations backwards. Okay, that's what solving is. So this is where I had you guys last week making that whole see and undo list. I can do that, and then you'll see that it's kind of ends up being your PEMDAS backwards. If I listed what I see going on next to my p, I have this 4 next to it first, which is being multiplied. So I would write that they multiply 4. Then beyond that, if I branch out, again, just looking at that left side where p's at, the other thing that's happening here is they're adding 12. So when I make my undo list, multiplication would turn into division, and addition turns to subtraction. Once you have your C in your undo list, you no longer care about the C side. You are working the undo list bottom up. Again, if you look at that undo list versus your PEMDAS, your order of operations, first thing you're going to do is subtract, which is on the end of your order of operations. Then you do your division, so moving back through your order of operations, just backwards. So I'm going to subtract my 12. If you don't know where to subtract from, look at where you added 12. That's where it's coming off. So I'm going to subtract my 12 from both sides. My 4p carries down. My equal sign is going to carry down. And then 36 minus 12 is going to give me 24. Once you've done your subtraction, you move on and you do your division. Again, we took care of the addition subtraction piece. So now we move on to either multiplication or division in our PEMDAS backwards. So if I'm going to divide by 4, I divide both sides. On the left side, the 4's cancel out and your p drops down. The equal sign drops down and you get 6. Okay? So that's problem number 2. Problem number 4 is a little bit longer, a little more involved. So problem number 4, I know I have that answer written there. We have 1 minus 3 parentheses d minus 8 equals 3d. So again, I'm going to write my PEMDAS. And once I'm ready to solve, I'll draw my arrow to remind myself I'm going backwards. First thing, if I look at my problem, I do see parentheses. That's your order of operations where you have to start, your parentheses or your multiplication, however you want to look at it. Do not subtract 1 and 3 first. Your order of operations says any multiplication has to happen prior to that. So I am going to multiply in -3 through my parentheses. That little 1 just stays in front. So I'm going to do -3 times d to get -3d. I'm now going to take my -3 and I'm going to multiply it not just by 8, but I'm multiplying it by a -8. So -3 times -8 gives me a positive 24. That positive gives me my plus sign to connect it. Everything else is going to carry down. I'm going to bring down my 1 in front, bring down my equal sign, and that 3d. Still trying to see if I can go ahead and work PEMDAS backwards, if I can start to solve. So I put my arrows above my variables. And in this case, I still have 2 of them sitting there. Shouldn't do that in the same color. So I still have these 2 d's, which means before I can solve, I have to get them together. They are on opposite sides of the equal sign. Always try to move your smallest variable first if possible. So I'm going to take this -3d, and in order to move it to the other side, I'm going to add it. It's always the opposite in order to get to the opposite side. So when I add it, I bring down my 1 yet again. I bring down that plus 24. Bring down the equal sign. Your 3D is canceled. And on the other end, 3D plus 3D is 60. So now I do have it down to one variable, 1D. I can start undoing this process, this PEMDAS. However, if I look at my equation, on the left side, I have 1 plus 24. Don't get crazy. Don't start trying to move one number away or do 6 divided by both of those things and make your life really stressful. What is 1 plus 24? 25. Make it a 25. Make your life easier. 25 equals 6D. So again, I'm solving for the D. If I work my order of operations backwards, do I have any addition or subtraction over here with my D? Is there any addition or subtraction happening? No, so I don't have to worry about that. Is there any multiplication or division happening to my D? Multiplication. I have 6 times D. So that means I have to undo my multiplication, and so I have to divide. If they're multiplying, I divide. Now, if you actually type in 25 divided by 6 in your calculator, you get some horrible long 0.66 decimal, I think. Don't use those. Leave it as an ugly fraction. Ugly fractions work much better than rounding your decimals incorrectly. So we're going to keep this as 25 over 6 equals, now it's just